Hi, friend. Welcome to the Yet Mothers podcast. I'm your host, B. Today, I wanted to get into the nitty gritty of all things intrauterine insemination, IUI, and my personal experience with it. I will be getting sort of descriptive, so if you're my dad or father-in-law listening, you probably want to skip this episode. Love yous. After numerous conversations with my friends and family, I realized unless you're actively pursuing IUI or researching assisted reproductive options, most don't really know what IUI is. A lot more are familiar with the term artificial insemination, AI, which IUI is a type of AI. So I wanted to kind of break it down similarly to how I did with PCOS. AI is when the sperm is placed in the cervix or uterus around ovulation to hopefully result in pregnancy. AI and its variants are usually the first medical intervention type step a lot going through infertility try. And I mean that after like medicated cycles, OPKs, and all that you might have done at home. During conception, sperm travels from the vagina through the cervix into the uterus and up the fallopian tubes to meet the egg. Fertilization typically occurs in the tubes, then the fertilized egg continues traveling into the uterus to then implant into the uterine wall. But due to a myriad of different factors, that may not happen properly, or some just need a bit of a head start. AI can be helpful whether there are female or male factors because it can help the sperm get closer to the egg. The different types of AI include intracervical insemination, ICI, and IUI. Home insemination is also considered a form of AI, but that is not super medical procedure-esque by nature, more like a at-home experiment type thing, but there are kits and such nowadays to formalize the process. But back to ICI and IUI. ICI is when semen is directly injected in the cervical opening with a syringe and tubing. The semen is not washed before this procedure. Should probably explain what that means. Washing or sperm washing is when sperm is separated from the semen. This process also removes any debris or non-motile sperm. So in theory, you have a perfect little sample of mobile and properly formed sperm to help increase chances of fertilization. ICI does not require this because the semen is injected in or near the cervix, and the fluid helps the sperm swim into the cervix through the opening to the uterus. In contrast, IUI is when sperm is placed in the uterus using a syringe and catheter. The semen is washed in this scenario, hence the mention of sperm injection and not semen injection. IUI does not guarantee fertilization. However, it does in theory get the swimmers closer to the egg and reduces some of the things that can also impact fertilization, such as cervical mucus or poor quality sperm. All in all forms of AI is considered non-invasive. I only have experience with IUI. I did not find it invasive. It is as invasive as any of the intravaginal checks and procedures, except personally was a bit happier to do this one. IUI for me was pretty standard as far as I am aware. As with unassisted conception, ovulation is essential. Duh. Medication is generally paired with AI to assist with ovulation induction. I have frequently heard of letrozole or Clomid being the prescription of choice. I'm sure there are others out there. Those are just the two I am somewhat familiar with. I personally have taken near 8 rounds of letrozole before we did IUI, and then the 1 full round and 1 attempted round of IUI we've done. When we officially decided to give IUI a try, I was on day 1 of my cycle. I called the clinic that day figuring I would hear back from them at some point. I ended up hearing back from them the same day and was able to get a prescription for letrozole put in and schedule my initial rounds of blood work and ultrasounds. The first of several ultrasounds was to get a visual of my uterine lining to make sure it was at an appropriate thickness based on where I was in my cycle. Along with this, I took letrozole from day 3 to 7 of my cycle. As I got closer to my estimated ovulation window, the ultrasounds monitored not only the uterine thickness, but egg development and growth. This was the first time I saw that string of pearls on my ovaries. Normally, you would have one follicle that fully develops and a single egg is released, exceptions, of course, existing. While taking medications such as letrozole, you're warned that there is a chance for twins and such because more than one follicle can develop and release multiple eggs. If you have too many follicles develop at once, they will typically recommend not proceeding with the IUI that month to reduce chances of a second octomom type situation. I believe I had at least 3 follicles growing pretty steadily, which my clinic told me was optimal. That is basically their threshold to be willing to do the IUI for that cycle. Based off way too many OPKs and a pretty loose reading of my temperature from my Oura ring, I gauged that I ovulate between cycle days 15 and 17. I doubt it's only me, but it has always been so difficult for me to truly understand OPK readings. I typically would wait to see a darker line than use the digital ones to confirm. Since I was having regular ultrasounds to track my cycle, I did not do OPKs that month. As my provider saw I was getting close to a fully mature follicle, they prescribed me Ovidrel, aka the trigger shot. The trigger shot is comprised, and please excuse my probably terrible pronunciation, of the human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, HCG, the pregnancy hormone. The trigger shot helps push ovulation over the goal line. It lasts longer in the body compared to LH, which would naturally initiate ovulation, so it's been found to work better in instances of IUI, IVF, or even timed intercourse if anovulation is occurring. Ovidrel isn't the only type or brand that is just the one I was given. I did mention in a previous episode that I gave myself the shot in my car in a parking lot on post. My hands were shaking like crazy. I already do not like needles, let alone poking one into myself. However, because the shot has to be timed with the actual IUI, I had no choice but to do it myself at that time. Some women experience pregnancy symptoms after taking the shot. It does last in the body for a few days and then kind of trails off. Unless you end up pregnant, then of course the natural HCG your body will produce will increase. I did not experience any symptoms post-trigger shot. The only thing I experienced was developing a slight linea nigra or pregnancy line. It's a pigmented line that some women develop laterally on their bellies, kind of splitting the belly in half. Not literally, just almost like drawing a line down the belly. It wasn't super dark. It did reach slightly above my belly button. I figured it would go away if I wasn't pregnant or get more pronounced if I was. Well, I was not pregnant, and although it did fade a little, it is still very much there. I've wondered when I finally get pregnant if that will actually be my first symptom, since it showed with such a low dosage of HCG. Like, will it get darker? And that's my only indicator since I literally had no other symptoms from the trigger shot. I don't even remember getting my usual PMS type symptoms that month. But anyways, we had our IUI scheduled about 24 hours from the trigger. We had to go to a different clinic off the base to have DJ's semen washed. I think it's actually an IVF clinic. I think they do IUI there too, but because our clinic does not have the equipment to do the sperm washing, they've partnered with this local spot. The main downside was that it's not covered by our insurance, so we did have to pay out of pocket for the wash. It was around $260 if memory serves me right, which is not much on the grand scheme of things, and I am sure is less expensive than what others may have experienced. Over time, this cost accumulates pretty quickly. I mean, the average attempts of IUI, I think, is 3 to 5. Allegedly, the likelihood of it working goes down after that, statistically speaking. Doing this 4 times would already cost over $1,000. That is with us only paying for the wash portion. I can only imagine the costs others are paying when none of it is covered by insurance or they don't have the same type of care options we do. I know a few states have mandated insurance companies cover at least a portion of infertility technology costs, although that still means there are out-of-pocket costs, definitely a step in the right direction. Fertility usually has to do with other underlying conditions or factors if they actually investigated, but you should already know some of my thoughts on the state of healthcare. The clinic we went to for the wash was local and close to our home. Our appointment was right when they opened up. We went in, DJ did his thing, and then the washing process took 40-ish minutes. The whole thing was about an hour total. We, I think, grabbed breakfast or something while waiting, then went back to pick up the sample. Little tip for anyone about to go through IUI or thinking about it: wear a shirt you can easily maneuver in and a comfortable bra, maybe a sports bra, something with support. They gave us a small tube with the sperm, and I had to place it in my bra to keep the sperm at body temperature. I am not very busty, so I had to tuck the tube in as best as I could. They also gave us an envelope with the details of the sperm to give to our clinic. We then drove straight to base to go to our clinic, and within a few moments we were called back and brought to the same room I had my many ultrasounds in. The clinic is pretty small, so the nurse I engaged with the most was the same one who had seen me for every appointment and was with us during the procedure. The other provider who actually did the insemination was lovely too. That whole clinic is honestly super kind and knowledgeable. General military healthcare gets a lot of slack, rightfully so, but I personally have found the specialty clinics to be amazing so far, and trust me, I've been through a few of them in my time serving thus far. After they confirmed some info, they told us our sample had about, I think, 11 or 12 million sperm. I could be remembering that wrong. I believe they said at least 10 million was what they categorize as the minimum threshold. I've mentioned before that DJ's semen analysis was not optimal before this. We redid them recently post him getting off the beta blockers. Unfortunately, his semen analysis had not improved and in fact has decreased in quality. The same nurse I mentioned is the one who told me the beta blocker DJ was on was actually known to negatively impact sperm counts and quality. And well, we see the impacts to that medication. But my husband is alive, and to God, I am so thankful. If you didn't know, men basically continue producing sperm through most of their life. Hence why you can see some of these older celebrities still getting women pregnant. The sperm typically matures over the course of about 2 to 3 months. That is just a rough average I've seen at least. So it's not only the women who should be taking vitamins and supplements before trying to conceive. It said women should start taking prenatals or supplements about 3 months before trying to conceive. You can see why the same should be said for men, but I have not seen people speaking on that as widely until more recently. There are a few different supplements said to help boost sperm count and quality. Part of the Fullwell trio we both take is a fertility booster, which has CoQ10, ashwagandha, NAC, and ALA. All things believed to improve quantity and quality. We are on our 2nd month of these vitamins, so hopefully we can do another analysis in the next few months and see if there is any improvements. I've previously mentioned DJ had gotten a referral to the urology department. He had his first appointment and had an ultrasound. The results we are still pending feedback from. I've had a sneaking suspicion he has varicocele. Varicocele is the abnormal dilation of the veins in the scrotum. It's apparently fairly common and is reversible with an outpatient procedure. The theory goes that because the veins are dilated, they carry more blood to the testes. This increases the temperature in that area, impacting the ability to make sperm and testosterone. In essence, the guy ends up cooking his swimmers unbeknownst to him. More men don't even realize that they have it and are able to conceive with no issues. Some don't even experience any hormonal issues or discomfort. There are varying grades of varicocele, but I'll let you all research that topic on your own if you so choose. Back to IUI. After confirming all our details and telling us the sperm count, I was given a sheet and told to disrobe waist down. After changing and laying down, the providers came back in, prepped the syringe and catheter, and talked us through what would happen. Unlike some of the other procedures that involve entering the uterus, no balloon is necessary. They do still use a speculum in the vagina similar to an exam or pap smear. They then clean the uterus with, I believe, a bit of iodine, then insert the catheter into the uterus through the cervix. I do not remember feeling any pain with that, just a bit of pressure. They then injected the sperm into my uterus, and that was it. They removed the catheter and speculum, told me to lay down as long as I needed. They warned me I could experience some cramping and spotting over the next few hours to days. I started cramping literally moments after they said this, and then they turned the lights in the room down a bit and let us be. DJ prayed over us, and we sat there for a bit until I felt ready to get up. We left, came home, and I became one with our couch for the rest of the day. I don't remember if I did a 21-day progesterone draw to confirm ovulation. I was also not given progesterone suppositories afterward, as I was told my progesterone levels were pretty good. Some are prescribed progesterone suppositories to help maintain the lining of the uterus to potentially improve the chances of implantation, especially for those who may not produce enough progesterone on their own. Unfortunately, low progesterone levels can sometimes, not always, but sometimes play a part in early miscarriage. So suppositories can be a mechanism used to try to limit or diminish the chances of that once pregnancy is confirmed until the mama is far along enough that they are making enough of their own. There are no physical restrictions after IUI. You are encouraged to do what feels comfortable for you. I think I took it a bit easier the days that followed, and with that, the 2-week wait began. Some women will buy those cheaper pregnancy test strips to test out the trigger shot. They will basically test daily to watch the positive line fade out, then continue testing for a few more days because in theory, your natural HCG would be increasing if you are pregnant. Or it won't fade and continue to rise through the ending of the trigger shot's existence in your body depending on when implantation happened and how much HCG your body produces. I did not do this. I did have blood work done, I think day 10 post IUI, and the trigger shot was believed to still be in my system in very small amounts. So I waited the full 2 weeks after taking the shot because it would be out by then. I also typically have a 30-31 day cycle, even though post hysteroscopy I've had like 40-day cycles, but I digress. I knew I'd still have a few days before a missed period, which some women don't start testing positive until after that. But I tested and saw what I thought was a very, very, very faint line. I did not want to get my hopes up. Plus, it was a cheap blue ink test. Some women believe the blue ink is more prone to false results. Some believe the pink is more prone to false results. Honestly, I have bought and used both. The super false positive I got a while ago was from a blue ink test, but I've also seen the dreaded evap line in the pink first response ones, so to each their own. And I have an unopened box of digital ones I've saved to basically confirm any more seemingly positive tests. They're literally sitting in my bathroom cabinet with the plastic seal on it. Anyway, I spoke to the clinic nurse who then put in blood work to confirm that I was not pregnant. To my point earlier about my experience with the fertility clinic and the women I've met who work there, they really are so sweet. When my nurse told me the blood tests were negative, I could hear the disappointment in her voice. Of course, working in that field, they want nothing more than to give good news, to tell people they are pregnant. But that is not always the case. I remember the same call after our second attempt to do IUI. I think I've mentioned it in passing before. I ovulated during a long weekend, so we couldn't do the procedure. When she told me the blood work was negative the second time, she again sounded so disappointed. I told her it was okay, and she was like, "No, it's not." "Well, I don't think it's okay." She didn't yell at me, but that's what she said. While I appreciated her passion and consideration for myself and other women on this journey, in that moment, I felt I needed to tell myself that it was okay. It would be that second IUI attempt and my clearly not okay state that would lead me to surrender. After the second IUI attempt, I asked if any more exploratory procedures could be done, like a saline sonogram. They obliged my request and got me in before another work trip in November, and we already know the results of that. I ended up having the hysteroscopy in December of 2023 to remove a 3mm polyp. Then, once I was healed from that, I bonked my head and got a concussion. And now I have some other curious health issues that have appeared. I thought it was still associated with the concussion and was told by my provider that although some of my symptoms can be associated to the initial days and weeks following a concussion, my specific symptoms and having been about 2 months removed from injury, it is probably some other underlying issue. So I am currently undergoing more tests and such to see if any more information can be garnered. Again, yes, I want to get pregnant, but my little quest is to get answers on my general health. Although showing new, previously unexperienced symptoms is unnerving, I'm thankful I have access to healthcare and, of course, the ultimate healer. To God be the glory. Like I said before, we are only responsible to pay the around $260 for the sperm washing. Under different circumstances, a single round of IUI could cost anywhere between that and several $1,000s, which of course is less than IVF, but not everyone can afford upwards of $4,000, let alone several rounds of IUI. Add on top of that, some providers will recommend a maximum of 3 IUI cycles before suggesting other treatments such as IVF. And if you're familiar with infertility spaces, you'll know how IVF is exceptionally expensive. Again, some states do mandate insurance cover some costs, and in some countries, I think they can have up to 3 rounds covered. I'm personally not at a point where I feel comfortable with or wanting to pursue IVF. I don't know if I ever will be. It would have to be under very specific circumstances, and of course, we would have to have the funding to pursue that. But IVF is a whole different topic for maybe another day. Well, that is all I have for you today. If you're not already, I would be so grateful if you would subscribe or share my little podcast with someone you think may benefit from or enjoy it. And if you've been with me for the past few episodes, I would appreciate if you would leave a review. And again, you can find me and contact me on Instagram @YetMothers. Until next time, be safe, be good. Bye.